Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen show where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 160, Zia Takes a Sheet, recorded on Friday, August 20th, 2021 from Zanata Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt. Let's get right on into the show.
All righty, we shall do so. So we'll start off some announcements. We just finished our webinar. If you didn't see it, we covered CRM Plus. It's something a lot of people have asked us about. We did a full overview of Zoho One. It's proved to be very popular, so we kind of went through CRM Plus. But next month in September, we're returning to products, and we're going to talk about Zoho PageSense. Oftentimes, I believe, an overlooked product in the Zoho universe, but an extremely good one. And we're going to run through that. And that's going to be on September 21st at 10 a.m. Oh, September 21st. Is that it's a solstice, isn't it?
Might be.
Isn't it one of the solstices? The autumn solstice or the fall?
I don't know.
So it's got a name for it, right?
I'll believe it if you say it.
It's got to be. That's going to be some voodoo right there. And as always, you can head over to zanata.com/events and check out all the events in the world of Zoho. As always, we do our best to collect them all and put them in one place for you to find them. And with that, let us get right on into the news. And I guess I could say we have a lot of news, but I think because we did the show Wednesday of last week, I did it, by the way, shout out to Vanu for that. It was a fantastic having him in. As always, he did a great job. So we did that show on a Wednesday because we had our kind of team meeting that we did where we flew everybody in. So we have news for Thursday, Friday, all the way up to this Friday. So it's quite a bit for us to cover here. So we'll start with Zoho is launching Trainer Central. Tyler, you and I got a really nice preview of this, I don't know, 8-9 months ago.
Yeah, it's a pretty slick application. And what they're kind of doing with it is kind of phasing out Zoho Showtime and replacing it with Trainer Central. A couple things to note about that is like Showtime is basically going to be deprecated. It will stay in your Zoho One account if you signed up before, I think it was like September 1st.
Yeah, I think you had 10 days.
Got about 10 days to sign up. That locks it in inside of your Zoho One account. Otherwise, they are actually going to be removing it from Zoho One going forward. Trainer Central is basically Showtime, but they've built in an LMS or kind of a learning management system into it. And the big use case is going to be if you are a company that provides training to external users. That's kind of their target market for this. Be interesting to see how it goes. They're spinning it up as a totally separate brand, separate application, kind of similar to what they've done or how they manage the Manage Engine products and Qntrl being spun off of Orchesley into its own brand. So kind of trying this out with some of their products, seeing if they can penetrate a market by distancing a brand from the Zoho name. Definitely be interesting to see. We did play with it. It looks really, really cool. The only downside is that, now it won't be included with Zoho One, and Showtime is an excellent application as well. So just something to be aware of around that. But I'm excited to see how this one goes once they kind of release it fully into the market.
Yeah, and they keep saying it's a separate brand. So kind of like, what is their Manage Engine? Right? Which is a whole separate brand. It is associated with Zoho, but you hardly see it. I'm excited about it. I think this is a very, very, very good app. It's really Zoho Learn, right? And Zoho Showtime kind of put together into one application. It's the LMS behind this is super, super nice. Anyway, a lot of good stuff here. So that is Trainer Central. And then Zoho Backstage has now added hybrid events. So I swear we've talked about this before, but I think maybe they've refined this a little bit. The world is going hybrid. Let's face it. We thought we'd be through COVID by now, but we're not. So you are starting to see in-person events, but they're also still doing the virtual side of the events. So kind of mixing that physical and virtual. And with that, Backstage is adapting and allowing you to build out an entire hybrid event. So really on the page you're creating, everything you're doing, it's supporting all of that, as well as other things. But
given that, I would assume Zoho is going to be doing some hybrid events going forward. I know Backstage is definitely one that they build for themselves as much as they build for customers. They run all of their events on this. So it'd be interesting to see if some of their upcoming ones end up being hybrid. And that might be the root cause of why this got onto the, the priority list.
Yeah. And this is another nice one, Tyler, that we've talked about for a while, which is you can pause the timer and add notes in Zoho projects.
Yeah, so within Zoho projects, you're always able to track time against a particular task. You can even use one of their built-in timers to do that. Previously, you couldn't pause the timer though. So if you were going to work on something multiple times throughout a day, you would have multiple different time entries. So I did an hour here, I did 15 minutes later, I did 30 minutes later. Now you can actually pause and then restart the timer to create just one time log for that. I would assume, some people might actually want each of those as individual timers. Some people might like this ability, but definitely doesn't hurt to add it in.
Yeah, and the notes can be viewed only after the timer is stopped.
Yeah, I think these are specific notes about why you paused. So it's like a pause note. So like paused because I grabbed some lunch, something along those lines.
Got it. All right. And then moving right along, Zoho Show now integrates with Zoho Analytics. This is kind of cool. We were talking about this before the show. You can now embed workspaces directly into Zoho Show. So if you're giving a presentation, basically you can just drop in a table, drop in a chart, drop in any report that you've got inside of analytics and put it directly in. We kind of went through this. I can't figure out if this is real time. So if you create this presentation and then you pull it up a month later, if it's gonna do that or not.
It looks like it's live. I think it's embed here, so I would assume it would be live. So on if you set this up on Monday and your presentation was on Friday, I think these are going to refresh by the time you actually pull it up, which is definitely pretty slick.
Yeah, so there's a Zoho Analytics add-on. So it looks like you're just going into the back end and doing that integration. So pretty nice. And then Zoho People, their HR newsletter has come out, and we always highlight this because I just think they do a really great job on this. So if you haven't, you can head over to the Zoho community and go to People and newsletter and check it out. But this is their latest newsletter that they've got going on.
And each month they kind of go through, highlight a couple different tip videos that they've made. Generally, they have some type of guest speaker on a webinar each month. It's pretty common that they'll have that link for you here, as well as some tips and best practices that they kind of, use to spread the good word of Zoho People through their newsletter.
And then a new interesting application for Zia. It's now integrating with Zoho Sheet, Zoho spreadsheet application. And it's going to recommend charts, pivot tables, offer insight about the data. It's got a smart cleaning tool. I like this a lot. There's an application that I use. I think it's from a company called Able Bits or Agile Bits. That's for Google Sheets that will kind of do a lot of this data cleanup for you. It's got a proper setting. So, you want if something, they're giving you an example here where you got binder and there's some lowercase b's in a column, and you've got pen set and they're run together as one word, but what they really need to be are two words. But basically Zia will just look at a column and say, hey, want us to clean this up for you? It seems like you're trying to say the same thing, but you've got different spellings, different capitalizations in case. I also use that same tool to do deduplication, and they're looking for this. This is a really slick tool that normally you have to pay for in Google or Excel or anywhere else. I'm not so sure about the idea of using Zia for everything. I think it's getting a tad confusing, but nice little add-on to Zoho Sheet.
Definitely kind of reminds me of some of the actions you can run inside of data prep, but they're kind of just building that into a little Zia interface for Sheets. Definitely nice ones though, cleaning up data inconsistencies, proper casing, replacing empty values with like a fixed value if you want to do that. Always nice. You can pull these in a spreadsheet, right? Filter by all the, rows where a certain column is empty and, drag it down to do that. But having a quick little command like this definitely will save you some time.
Yes, it will. All righty. And then moving on, Zoho Mail has deprecated the old admin UI.
And good
You've
riddance.
had it. Yeah, it was. Yes, this is nothing for anyone to be upset about. The new admin UI is really good. And it is, the old one was not bad. It was just kind of clunky,
Old,
to
and
move
very
around
like
it.
old kind of feel to it. The new one's great though.
Yeah.
So nice to kind of force everyone to move over, I think, at a certain point.
Yeah, it's super nice. So I don't think there's any reason why they wouldn't want to deprecate that UI at all. And then we have our marketplace extensions, 9 more of them dropped this week. Again, we'll say this, we can't really tell if they're new or old, because it seems like anytime there's an update, they're here.
Yep.
I actually
can
don't see
definitely tell you, I can tell you WooCommerce for Zoho CRM has been around. I implemented that a couple of years back.
Yes,
A
as
couple
well as
ones to
Google
call
Drive.
out. Yeah, definitely. A couple to call out here. Zoho contracts for CRM. That one may actually be new. That's actually their plugin for the new Zoho contracts app, which I think you spent a little time playing with. Seems actually really
Yeah,
cool so far. Oftentimes we find ourselves doing a lot with Deluge to just automatically create contracts. But in those cases where you want to just be able to put one together ad hoc, seems like a pretty slick system they're building there.
yeah, I had one of our developers, Skylar, really play around with it and do it, and kind of spent about an hour taking me through it after he'd gone through, give me the pros and cons, and we went through it. It is for contracts. It is not for proposals. So it's very nice. You can add sections in ad hoc. It will pull from the CRM, but you can go in and say, hey, I want these sections, and you can break the sections down very nicely. It could be proposal software, but in the sections that you can build, you can have no graphics. So it's just a strange omission, because it is, a very nice WYSIWYG rich text editor, but it's not allowing the embed of any images. And I think they're looking at it, and they load this thing up. It has so many contract templates in there for anything and everything you'd want to do. The integration with Zoho Sign is great. The integration with the CRM is great. But as you pointed out, Tyler, you're 100% right. There are, in our opinions, much easier, quicker, more elegant ways to do things. Really just using the CRM, using Writer with the if-then statements, right? Doing those kind of things, and then writing some code to make it all happen.
Yeah. I think one of the value adds too, when I was doing some research on contracts, is the ability to set up your permissions around who can build those clauses and addendums and things like that.
Yes.
So you can have a whole area where your contracts team goes in and sets all of that up, and then none of your sales teams can edit any of those sections when they pull them in. Whereas if you are going through like a standard, CRM mail merge to Writer for your proposal, well, now the sales rep can edit that language, right, before they actually send it out. So I could see a use case where, there are specific clauses and terms on your contract that just cannot be edited. This would be kind of a nice way to manage that. So I think it'll find its place.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen this. I don't know. The Adyen payment gateway for CRM looks new, and Linker, Linkr. I don't believe I've seen that, but anyway, most of these are updates, but the marketplace keeps chugging along bit by bit by bit. And that brings us to our Zoho Mail. What is this? Back that up. And that brings us to the ZeptoMail July 2021 recap. For those of you who don't know, this used to be called Transmail. It's now been renamed ZeptoMail, which I believe is the smallest measurement of time that we have.
A zeptosecond.
Yes, 1 trillion billionth of a gigaplex of a second or something like that. Anyway, so we got a new name. You can now export your email logs. The cool one we covered last week is email templates. You have email templates inside ZeptoMail. So if you're using this to build out, basically, this is for developers. If you are building out an application and you have emails that need to go out of your application, click here to double opt in. Thank you for joining, blah, blah, blah. You set all those things up inside of here. And ZeptoMail handles all the back end heavy lifting for you, if you will.
And it's definitely nice to use a tool like this rather than like a Zoho campaigns for those types of emails, like a new customer bullet list of things to be aware of, like these very transactional emails. Using servers like this will increase delivery as they're not coming from like a marketing email platform. So definitely something to take a look at. And we were actually playing with it earlier, and the pricing is very, very cheap in terms of platforms in this vein. So for, I think, $1, you get, let me think here, $2.50 got you 10,000 emails. So if you were doing this for managing your onboarding of client emails and things like that, a little would go a long way for building this out.
Yeah. Nice product. And moving on, we had a lot of mobile updates that hit in the last 9 days. So we'll kind of run through these. Nothing real major here. We'll start with the Zoho Analytics app. You can now choose to log on via the on-premise application in the Zoho Analytics mobile app. I have no idea what they're talking about. Do you?
Well, so Zoho Analytics does have an on-premise version. You don't have to run it in the cloud. What I'm assuming here is they're saying maybe if you're on the same network as that on-premise server on your mobile device, you'd be able to log into it. I'm not a networking engineer, so I'm not sure, but I couldn't imagine you would just be able to use this on-premise login if you were off-site. But if you are in the office and want to log in and see that, you now have the option to. Though I don't find too many people, at least that we work with, are really using the on-premise version.
This is news to me. I didn't even know that Zoho had any on-prem apps whatsoever.
They do.
Are there any others
analytics
besides this?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I could imagine from a data security standpoint, especially with analytics with a BI tool like that, you might not want it to live in the cloud. Interesting. All right. And now voice over access is now supported in the Zoho Meeting iOS app.
Very nice.
They brought in support for that. Very, very nice. And moving right along, you can now do I find this interesting. You can now do in-app purchases, and in-app help is now supported in the latest version of the Bigin Android app. I think they rolled this out in iOS a little while ago, but this is Zoho paying the 30% because the Google Play Store, I think, still charges the 30%. And I know that the iOS store charges the 30%, but you can now go ahead and purchase directly from the application.
You can also go in there and get some help as well, view the help guide and the community portals just through there. Yeah. And before we jump off of this page, I do just have to highlight that in their example here, they have the double first name bug that's plagued Zoho for a little while now. You must not noticed. For those of you who maybe this bug didn't hit, it's a pretty common thing in Zoho when you add a new user specifically to the CRM that somehow their first name gets duplicated. It's a quick little fix to edit and kind of a running joke here at Sonata, but I guess they didn't check it in these images because we've got a Ted Beneke who is working with this. Could be his middle name, Theodore Ted Beneke, but I'm guessing it's the bug.
Well, this bug has had a lot of iterations. You've had the first name, last name, last name. You've had the first name, last name. You've had all sorts of variations of this bug. It seems to randomly pop up. You have no idea what's going to trigger it. I remember sitting down with the Zoho One crew back in, gosh, what was it? I guess I want to say it was April of 2018 discussing this bug at Zoholics. So it's been around for a while. That's hysterical. Good catch, Tyler. Good catch. All right. And then Zoho Sprints adds log hours for other users in the Android app.
Never hurts to have. I mean, any functionality that you've got inside of the desktop application, you may as well have in the mobile as well. So definitely doesn't hurt to do this.
Yeah. It's pretty funny though, if you're watching if you're watching us on YouTube, they have an animated GIF or GIF, you choose, that rolls. And it looks like a CIA document. It's so heavily redacted. So they must have done this with something live. I don't know what's going on here, but man, there's a lot of blurs. I don't know. I haven't seen that much blur since I watched a Japanese porno. I don't know. That's kind of crazy.
That's not going to be the show title for the record.
I just had to, come on, guys. Gotta give me a show title there. Show title. That's, I'm hearing it from the chat room. All right.
It's going to be the first CRM Zen show with a bleep in it.
Oh man, show title is redacted. I like it, guys. All right. And then the last bit of mobile news that we have is you can now save the jobs as drafts in the Qntrl app and edit them as and when required. For those of you who don't know, Qntrl is basically Zoho's blueprint across all applications, across all things application, and they're just putting more and more features into this mobile app.
It's one of those odd apps that we just never really touched. We never worked with Orchestly, which was the previous version of this when it was part of Zoho 1. And since they've spun it off as this external brand, we've just never found a use case. I did actually have someone on the Zoho team explain it to me through the Connect partner page of really like the larger scale use case for this, which, you know, if you're working with Zoho and, you know, other applications, basically being able to have a platform that maps a workflow throughout all these various things. So something happens in Zoho, it gets approved, it posts out to your ERP. Once that's confirmed, now the control moves to the next step. It's a really interesting application. It's just one that, because most of our customers are all with Zoho, you know, and everything they're doing is all in that realm, we don't find ourselves using a ton. But nonetheless, the more functionality for mobile, the better. We're the outliers, I think, that don't use mobile very much for anything we do, but more and more people do. So never hurts to have
I do.
this.
I live on the mobile apps. I love the Zoho mobile apps. I've got them on my iPad, my phone. I'm using them all the time. But and some of these improvements, I will tell you, the CRM application for iPad is phenomenal. Great application. They just constant improvements to that. But anyway, one day I guarantee you we will have a Qntrl implementation that we do. And speaking of which, that brings us to our implementation of the week.
Yeah, so this is a kind of fun one that the team figured out. Normally, when it comes to something analytics related, I'm the one who figures it out, but this one I can't take much credit for. This is basically using Zoho Analytics as a platform to do scheduled reporting out to your clients. So a long time ago, I guess not that long ago now, we actually used to use a much worse version of this to report to our clients, where each of our clients had their own dashboard and they could view, you know, how many hours they've used, what all the time was spent on, and so on and so forth. But the way that we were doing that is actually each client had their own individual dashboard that was hard coded to be filtered for them. Now that worked great when we had 20 clients. Once we had 100 and 100 plus clients, all of a sudden managing all of these individual dashboards just became a huge pain. So we ended up moving all of this to our Creator app, where people can log in, they get their portal through there. But not everyone wants to build a full portal just to surface some information, because our portal, we have some ticket submissions, you see your tasks, you're able to comment on things. In this use case, basically the client needed an account summary that would go out to, you know, active client accounts on a monthly basis and roll up some information from books, you know, invoices, some of them that have open payments, you know, purchase orders to fill orders in the future, you know, all these various different books or inventory data points. And what we found is that the standard account summary that comes out of books was good, and it's pre-built, very easy to use, but it didn't quite contain all the information we needed. So what the team did is they built out an analytics dashboard that had the ability to be filtered for clients, but it wasn't like hard coded to be filtered. It just had the user filter available. And what they figured out that we're actually able to do is run a scheduled function that looks for, you know, let's say client accounts where the account type is customer. And for each of those, it reaches into analytics. It applies the filter using their account name to the dashboard. It downloads that filtered version of the dashboard as a PDF, and then actually sends it out as an email to the client. So that you basically set up one dashboard. So if you're to make any changes or improvements to it, it would automatically go to all the customers. And you're just able to basically set it and forget it, where, you know, on the first of each month, they get all of this data relevant to the previous month or relevant to, you know, everything up to current date at the point when it's sent. Definitely one of those ones where now that I know it's there, I see 5 more use cases for this. The really cool thing about it is that you can download it as a PDF, but you also could get the HTML and send it as an email. So the dashboard would actually just be in the email itself. It's kind of a choice to the client of which one they'd rather have. In this case, the PDF worked better because they want to share it around their organization. But really, really, really cool. Types of things that we're doing with analytics and working with that API is just incredible.
It's fantastic. I remember all of the back and forth as you guys were trying to figure this one out.
Yeah, this one took them some trials and tribulations for sure to get this stitched up properly.
There's a lot going on. So I hope we have this well documented, I take it.
Oh, we do. Yep.
Fantastic. All righty. And let's move on to this week's reads. I've got a couple of them for this week. I went back to HubSpot. They have the ultimate list of email marketing stats for 2021. I just love this stuff. It turns out that for every $42 that is generated in revenue, it's for $1 spent. So you get a 4,200% return on investment for your email marketing, which would explain the millions of emails we all get on a daily basis. And if you look at the cost of ZeptoMail, you can see just how cheap it is to send these things out there. Yep. But anyway, interesting stuff. I just thought I'd throw it out here. It's a quick read for HubSpot. It's only 4 minutes long, but 4 billion daily email users, 40% of marketers saw budget cuts to email since the pandemic. I don't know, just a whole bunch of stats here. 74% of baby boomers think that email is the most personal channel to communicate with brands.
Interesting.
Not many baby boomers left, but 74% of us. we think that. I don't know. Anything jump out at you here?
Nothing too crazy. I mean, it's kind of what you would expect. I'd imagine ROI, of course, on something like this scales heavily with how big your list is, right? If I send an hour setting up a campaign to 10 people or 10,000 people, of course, that ROI is going to be different. So I think a big part of this is cultivating a good active email list and putting them into good segments so that you're delivering the best content to them that you can. Because just if each dollar spent is supposed to yield you 42, that's not a guaranteed result. If you're not customizing content and hitting people at the right time, your mileage will vary.
Yeah. One of the stats that I just saw on here is that globally, Fridays see the highest email open rates at 19% compared to the lowest open rate on Saturdays of 17%. So basically send them out any day. It doesn't there is very little difference between the best day to send an email and the worst day to send an email from an open rate. I would.
Well, one interesting thing around that too is another point on this is about 70% of marketers are trying to use more AI to determine when the best time to send emails is. It's actually something I've been playing around with a couple clients in campaigns around that because they do it for time of day. So I could say, hey, I want to send this out on a Monday, but I want you to pick for each of these people what the best time to send is based on our history of interaction with them. So if you have a list that you've been emailing for a long time, it might be worth trying out a campaign where you let Zoho campaigns kind of pick, because we actually saw some interesting results and that open rates did actually go up now that we're customizing a little bit more to the customer's preference.
Yeah. Anyway, a lot of data here. If you're doing email campaigns, I suggest you take a look at that. And then an article popped up on Entrepreneur India about Sridhar. And again, I don't know, it seems like once every 2-3 months we drop one of these in. But again, another interesting read on him and the company. And while he has, his move back to India, his move to a village, all the kind of stuff he's doing, the investments they're making, what they're doing, bootstrapping a company, on and on, all stuff we've talked about before. But there are a few other interesting nuggets in there. And if you kind of want to keep up on Zoho and where it's going and what's happening, pretty interesting. It's funny. He wakes up every morning at 4:30 a.m. and he does all his personal stuff and doesn't start till 9. I wake up at 5 a.m. every day and start at 9:30 is when I try to take my first appointment. So we have the same schedule there where I take care of all the workouts, all the personal things, reading, all, studying Spanish, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty interesting. But I do not go to bed at 9, unfortunately. I have more like 10. So I'm not getting enough sleep there, Tyler. Eventually Alzheimer's is going to set in.
Oh boy.
I know. It's going to happen. Be prepared for it. Or maybe it's already happening.
And the show takes a dark turn for the worse here at the tail end.
I'm slowly slipping bit by bit. Oh man. All righty. And then over at Zenata.com, we have got a couple articles over here as well. Our favorite WordPress themes. And if you go there, we basically talk about, these are ones we use a lot as we build out things for various people. Elementor is one of our, I would say, one of our big building images. A lot of people have a lot of different ones they use. What is it? Divi. You know, but a great theme to put Elementor on is Zakra. Super lightweight. You know, we're really concerned not only with performance at the end of the day too. You know, how well is the site going to perform?
Yeah, because it's a huge effect on your SEO, having your site load quickly and proper caching and all of those things that I barely understand. But I do know it makes a huge impact on your ability and your kind of your ROI on what you're investing into your content and SEO.
Yep. So this is more of a quicker read, but it'll kind of take you through some things. A lot of things to think about if you're redoing your website, rebranding it, building from scratch, some good stuff there. And then we have our article on the webinar we just did. This is something we're doing now, Zoho CRM Plus 2021 full product overview. And basically, this is a short, quick version. If you don't want to watch the YouTube, you can skim through here and it'll tell you what timestamps you need to jump through to kind of get to certain other areas of it. But this is an overview of what we did for our CRM Plus webinar as well. So hopefully you will find that enjoyable. All right, takes us to our pick of the week. RoboKiller. What's that song go? Psycho Killer.
Yep.
Oh yeah, there you go. There's a song there. I don't know. Someone help me. I mean, my show title might be in there somewhere. Anyway, RoboKiller. I installed it on. It's for Android. It's for iOS. It is a few bucks. It is not much at all, really. I want to say it's 29 bucks or something like that for a year. It's got a free 7-day trial. And guess what? I don't get any spam anymore. I don't.
That's why you've been declining all of my calls.
That's why. That's why. I mean, man, does this thing really work? They've got the insights from it. So you got all the robocall insights. They can tell you how many they blocked, where they're coming from, what's going on, what areas get the most. This is real time. I mean, this is
Ohio, we get the most out here in Ohio. That's incredible. So I moved from the state with the second most to the most. And I wonder if that's per capita. That's not per capita either. That's pretty crazy. No wonder I'm getting so many.
This is where they targeted the most in July. It's just nuts. Texas, South Carolina, Arizona. Yeah. California is in here twice though. So we got a little, the 909. Oh, these are by area code.
By area code. Interesting.
Yeah. So California is just crushing it with 3 of the top 10 area codes.
Not a list you want to be on the top 10 of. Definitely not.
No, not at all. Anyway, it's a great app. I love it. Very, very easy to set up. You can go super aggressive on this app where you can also turn on a feature so if they're in their address book, they go through. Okay. And if they're known spammers, they get blocked. But you can have another feature on here that says, if they're not in my address book, they're not known spammers, send them to a call screening, which is, hello, this user is only answering calls from people in its address book. If you wish to speak to them, if you could just please your name, I'll pass this call right through. Right. And that basically gets a lot of the unknown spammers. I had that on. I eventually turned it off. I haven't noticed much of a change since I did. Great job on blocking spam SMS as well. It's interesting though. It filters it on the phone. It actually creates a filter. You've got, if you're using iOS, you can look at all messages. You can look at messages from contacts, unknown, whatever. It creates another folder called spam and it puts it there. But if you're using the watch, it doesn't filter it there. So the spam SMS still gets through on your watch somehow. But that's about, so that is RoboKiller. You installing it right now, Tyler? Is that what's going on?
I'm about to.
All right. Fantastic. All right. And that brings us to our tip of the week. Tyler, this was explaining your data inside of analytics. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, so this is part of our handful of videos here that we're doing on Zoho Analytics. The first one was on setting up a workspace and actually connecting your data sources, how to get them all in. On this one, this is a little more dry. This will definitely be the driest of the series, but for the nerds in the listener group, you'll like this one. Basically, I go through and walk through how to take a look at those data tables, how to start seeing what can connect to what, and how you can pull together a report from multiple different tables at once. Definitely a good little 10-minute crash course on that, where I wrap up kind of showing Zoho's little model diagram to give you a guide on how you can figure out, where the different paths are between your data. An example I used was if I wanted to pull a report that had some data from books and some data from CRM. If we look at both of those customer records, you can see some IDs that help us line them up. So a little bit more technical. If the data is going to be worked up for you, skip this one and just watch the one on charts and dashboards, which will follow over the next couple of weeks. But I thought I would put this one out there for those who are going to start from the ground up inside of analytics.
Nice, nice, nice. I got to start thinking about these. It's my turn to do the tips and tricks for September. So I gotta get on it. All right, and that takes us to our Q&A. We had one question from Rich. Can you generate scheduled reports from Zoho CRM reports?
Yes, you can. Not quite in the same method that we're using there for analytics and implementation. These would have to be manually scheduled to go out to people, versus in analytics, we're able to kind of hit it with an API and send it out that way.
Yeah, but if you go into reports, it's kind of strange, because you would think that if you're in a report, you can schedule that report. You can't. Over on the side where you have all your folders, where you can, put your lead reports, contact reports, account reports, deal reports, all that kind of stuff, there's going to be a folder called scheduled reports. And if you click on that folder, you then can schedule a report, and you tell it what report you want, when you want to send it out, who you want to send it out to, if you want it in a PDF or do you want it in Excel. But you can easily schedule reports that way. But for a lot of people, we get asked this question a lot because it's not intuitive, I don't think. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You would think it's just a folder that has your scheduled reports, but did they change it? Can you schedule a report from within a report?
You still go in. Yeah, you still have to go into scheduled reports and do it there.
Still have to do it that way. Yeah. So Rich, if you go in there to reports, just click on that scheduled report folder and have fun, and that will take care of it for you. All righty. And with that, let's wrap up the show, buddy. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us at Zenata.com. And the CRM Zen show has moved. It's now over at Zenata.com/Zen, and you can find everything that used to be on CRMZen.com over there.
Yep, and on the website is where you will find those complete show notes with links to all the stories we discussed today. As always, we'd love if you'd follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.